In today's video, I'm going to show you how to remove and reinstall a door panel on an Acura CL 2.2 CL 2.3 3.0 97 to 99. Whether you're needing to get at your window switch or your mirror switch or whatever reason you have to take your door panel off, I'm going to show you how you get that door panel off and back on without breaking anything. So first things first, to cover where the screws are that you got to take out, there's that one in the top of the handle that I just showed, this one on the bottom. There's this one in the door handle bezel, which usually has a little plastic cover over it. And then there's that one, which isn't really a screw, but it's kind of a threaded clip. So first I'm just going to pop off those plastic covers that are over top of the 3 screws that I just showed you. I'm going to start with the one in the top of the armrest, and then the one at the bottom of the armrest. Now we're going to do the screw in the door handle bezel, which, as I already mentioned, is missing its plastic cover. And I'd really recommend using a magnetic screwdriver for this. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Next, I'm doing the screw that is in the top of the armrest. Now I'm taking out the 3rd screw that is kind of in the bottom or side of the armrest, or whatever you want to call it. So next we're going to take out this little clip that's up in the top inner corner of the door panel. So now here's where you really want to use your trim removal tool, and I like to start at the outer side, I guess you'd call it, of the door panel first. Work the clip in there. Once you've got it started, you can get your fingers in there, and I'm just working my way around, going along the length of the bottom, undoing each clip. And right there, I think we've got the last clip. The door panel is almost ready to pull right off, but you do need to take off this little triangle piece up in the top here over the mirror plug first. So I'm just going to pop in there, clip it off. I mean, I don't recommend leaving that on. If you leave it on, it's going to be hard to get the door panel off and on, and you're going to end up scratching it or breaking something. And then you do need to take this little bezel off as well around the door handle, and I'm unclipping the harness to the power lock switch there. And now you should be able to pull the door panel kind of up and away off of the door. And now you'll have to reach in there and start undoing all of the harnesses. I did the courtesy light there first, and then I did the security LED, and then the power window switch. For the mirror switch, it's easiest if you kind of push up and pop the mirror switch out of its bezel there first, because it's pretty hard to get your hands in there to undo the clips from inside. So then you can kind of pull it out and away, and then undo the harnesses that way. Now in my case, the whole reason I was taking my door panel off was because I needed to fix my mirror switch. So I needed to get the mirror switch out anyways. If you've never done a CL door panel before, you might want to stick around for the reinstallation, because there is one trick in particular, a couple tricks, but one in particular that you kind of need to know that'll make your life a lot easier. You can't quite put it back on exactly the way you take it off. Just before we start reinstalling the door panel, I want to show you how we would get the window master switch out. I showed you the mirror switch already, but if you guys are taking the door panel off to get at your power window switch, see these gold screws here? You need to take these out. That will actually allow you to take that door, I guess the armrest portion that has the window switches in it, actually off of the door panel. You can't get out the screws to remove the window switches without taking that off the door. Once you have it off the door, this is what it's going to look like, and then you can get the window switch out from there. Okay, so let's get on to reinstalling the door panel. The first thing I did was I temporarily plugged back in the window switch because I wanted to roll down the window. It's going to be a lot easier to put the door panel on with the window rolled down, so that's what I'm doing here. So the next thing I'd recommend doing is checking and making sure that all the door clips actually came out with the door skin. A lot of the times you'll find that one or maybe several will actually pop out of their slots on the door skin and be stuck in the door. And if this happens and you just try to put the door panel back on, those clips are not going to be attached to the door panel anymore. So what you want to do is get your little trim clip removal tool and pull those out of the door, and then go ahead and reattach those to the door skin. Okay, so here's probably the most important part you need to know about putting this door panel back on. If you just try to put it on at this point, as you normally might think you should, it's just not going to work. You're going to see that I cannot get it to fit over that door handle, because it's a very narrow cutout on these cars. So what you actually have to do is you need to undo these 2 door handle screws and take those screws out so that the door handle is not fixed in place, and you can kind of maneuver it through that hole as you're trying to put the door panel back on. So with those screws out, we're going to start to line up the door panel. The first thing I'm going to do is start plugging back in some of the harnesses. I'm plugging in the courtesy light harness and the security LED light harness. Next thing will be to line it up a little more and plug in the power window switch. Now when it comes to the power mirror switch, the easiest thing to do is have it out of the bezel, not in the door panel, and to feed the harness through the opening. Because if you have the mirror switch in, it's hard to, you just can't get the harness into the switch. Now I'm putting on the door panel. Now notice how easily I'm able to get that handle through that cutout now because I can maneuver it. Make sure you pull the power door switch harness through that cutout, and then also, see, I pulled the mirror switch harness through the mirror switch cutout, and I'm going to plug it in like this and then press the mirror switch into place. Now you'll see I'll actually end up kind of popping the door panel off a bit so I can get my hand underneath the mirror switch from inside, because I wasn't satisfied. One of the corners wasn't quite popping in all the way, and I had to kind of pop it back out and then pop it back in a few times till I finally got it perfect. So now mirror switch is in. Let's get the door panel clipped on again. Again, I can easily maneuver this door handle because the screws are out and it fits through the cutout. Super easy to get the door panel lined up and hooked on again. So at this point, with the door skin hooked on the window ledge and everything's lined up, you can go ahead and put those 2 screws back in the handle. So at this point, I'm going to just clip in a couple of the clips on the outer edge of the door, but I'm not going to do any others yet. This is about the time where you want to put in this triangle trim piece, mirror cover, whatever you want to call it. You need to have, you kind of have to pull the door skin away a little bit to slip it under, so it's nice to have a couple clips already clipped in on the opposite side so the whole door doesn't fall off while you're doing this. But you can't have all the clips already clipped in, otherwise you're not going to be able to pull the door panel away far enough to slip that triangle piece in. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably saying, well, why don't I just put that triangle piece on before I put the door skin on? That won't work out very well for you. I don't recommend that. You're probably going to end up scratching it if you try to do it that way. It's really hard to put the door panel on with that piece already on without scratching it. So at this point, we're starting to press all the clips back in. So I'm kind of working my way around the door, pushing on it, letting the clips all back in. You can hear when they pop back in. If at any point you can't get the clips in, don't force it, because that means something is not lined up correctly. If you have the door panel lined up correctly, like I do here, with all the clips in place, you should just push on them a little bit and they should just pop nicely back in. If they're not popping nicely back in, you need to reassess because something is not lined up properly. So with all the clips satisfyingly popped back into place, I'm going to start putting the screws back in. I'm going to start with that one that's kind of on the top of the armrest. Now we're going to do the one on the bottom, and the order here doesn't really matter. Now the bezel around the door handle will go back on, so we got to connect the door lock switch harness and then get that bezel clipped back into place. Now we've got that one last screw to put in, and then we're just going to put in the 3 little plastic covers that go over top of those screws, and that's it. We've got our CL door panel back on, everything's clipped in nicely, nothing's broken, and it looks like it was never taken off in the first place. So I hope this was helpful to you. Leave a comment if it was, leave a comment if you have a question, and we'll see you in the next video.